Welcome everyone. We are so glad that you're joining us tonight for Plant Forward Plates class with the UPMC Health Plan. My name is Maris. I'm a registered dietitian and Let's Move Pittsburgh program coordinator at Phipps Conservatory. And I have with me Cassie Smolik, who's also a registered dietitian, and she works for the UPMC Health Plan. And our co-host tonight, who will be monitoring the chat, is Sarah Cullo, our other Let's Move Pittsburgh program coordinator. Now, before we get started with class, I do have a couple of tech guidelines that I want to review. First of all, I do have you all on mute, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, we want it all, just use the chat function. And Sarah and I will be monitoring the chat to field any of your questions. I also just want to thank the UPMC Health Plan for their generous funding to Let's Move Pittsburgh. All right, so this is our class outline. We are going to go over a few definitions of what plant-forward eating actually means. Then we're going to talk about key vitamins and minerals, recipe substitutions, and we are going to end with that food demo. We are going to learn from Cassie how to make sweet potato sliders, and it sounds absolutely delicious. So I want to start off by saying there is no right way to approach a plant-forward diet. The diet looks very different person to person and day to day. Now, as a dietitian, it's important for me to emphasize the personalization of diets and highlight the feasibility factor. Reflect what's worked for you in the past, what you're doing now, and be realistic with the changes that you want to make. It's better to make a bunch of small changes than to set yourself up inevitably for failure with a giant change that's just not sustainable for you. Now, the Menus of Change is an initiative from the Culinary Institute of America and the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. And it defines plant-forward as a lifestyle of cooking and eating that emphasizes and celebrates plant-based foods and reflects evidence-based principles of health and sustainability. Now, there's a lot of different types of plant-forward diets, as you'll see in those poll questions I sent. There's lacto-ovo-vegetarian diet, lacto-vegetarian diet, ovo-vegetarian diet, veganism, and again, the best type of diet is one that nourishes your body, your mind, your taste buds, and ultimately honors your lifestyle. I just want to provide some reassurance for families who are thinking about including more plant-forward meals but are worried about nutrient adequacy. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, a leading source for evidence-based nutrition recommendations, released a position statement in 2016 supporting the health benefits and nutritional adequacy of a plant-based diet. And they also said that this diet can work for everyone across all stages of life. They do emphasize that the diet should be appropriately planned and catered to each stage of life in order to meet nutritional needs. And when planned properly, plant-forward diets are packed with phytochemicals, fiber, vitamins, minerals, all of which serve as preventative medicine for chronic disease. That being said, knowledge is power, so let's go over some nutrients to be mindful of when following a plant-forward diet. Now, the first one is protein. Contrary to popular belief, research shows that most vegetarians and vegans meet or exceed their daily protein requirements. They contain a plethora of protein in the form of amino acids. There are 9 amino acids in our bodies that we cannot make on our own, and these are considered essential amino acids. This means that we must consume these proteins containing these essential amino acids from food that we eat. While animal products provide all 9 sources of amino acids, sources of complete proteins from plants are more difficult to come by. Soy, quinoa, and spinach are types of plant foods that contain all of these 9 essential amino acids and are considered complete. But other plant foods are typically deficient in 1 or more essential amino acids. And it was thought that previously you would need to combine 2 complementary foods together in the same meal to get the benefits of a complete protein, for example, rice and beans, but this has been disproven. As long as you're eating a variety of food throughout the day, you should be meeting your protein needs. And we also have vitamin B12. So vitamin B12 is essential for red blood cell development, DNA synthesis, and proper functioning of our nervous system. Vitamin B12 deficiency or insufficiency is high in vegetarians regardless of the type of vegetarian diet they consume. So how do we prevent a deficiency? Well, several cereal products are fortified and constitute as a good source. Additionally, some brands of nutritional yeast are fortified with B12, and a variety of soy products, including soy milk, tofu, and meat alternatives, may be fortified as well. But it's important to read the labels and not assume that they are fortified, because the amount of fortification can also change between products. Instead, using vitamin B12 supplements is the easiest and most reliable way to prevent the development of deficiency for vegetarians and vegans. If you're concerned about a B12 deficiency, please talk to your doctor. So the next nutrient of concern is vitamin D. Many plant-based products like nut milks and tofu are often fortified with vitamin D. Mushrooms are the only substantial plant source of vitamin D, and they produce a bioavailable form when exposed to UV light. So unless your local grocery store carries UV-exposed mushrooms or you dry them in sunlight, this isn't the most efficient tactic to get plant forms of vitamin D. Diet pattern, the best approach to avoiding a vitamin D deficiency is to get 10 minutes of sunshine a day if possible. I know Pittsburgh is super cloudy, so it's important to talk to your doctor if you feel that you aren't getting enough vitamin D and want to explore those supplement options. For calcium, there are many plant-based sources of calcium, including certain leafy green vegetables, broccoli, tofu, tempeh, beans, oranges, seeds, and so on. The calcium content of foods varies by brand and depends on processing. For example, tofu is an excellent source of calcium when a calcium salt, for example, calcium sulfate, is used to coagulate or set the tofu. Likewise, blackstrap molasses is a good source of calcium. Regular molasses is not. Now, calcium in low oxalate leafy greens such as collards, kale, and mustard greens is very well absorbed, whereas spinach, not so much. In fact, the absorption of low oxalate leafy green vegetables is around twice that from milk. Calcium in non-dairy milk alternatives are also well absorbed, but what you want to do is you want to make sure to shake the container before using it, as calcium often settles on the bottom. And the last mineral that we are going to talk about is iron. Plant foods not only contain great sources of iron, but they contain non-heme iron. Unfortunately, non-heme iron isn't absorbed as well as heme iron found in animal products. And although some plant foods are good sources of iron, it's often attached to compounds which reduces its absorption. These compounds are called phytates, and they are found in whole grains and dried beans. So this is why it's important to combine plant sources of iron with sources of vitamin C. Think citrus, bell peppers, tomatoes, to increase the bioavailability, the absorption power of iron. Cast iron cookware also contributes to iron in any meal cooked with it. I do want to mention that iron deficiency is the most common nutrient deficiency globally, so it's not just a concern for vegetarians and vegans. And a blood test is the best way to figure out if you're deficient or anemic. Now, while knowledge is key when it comes to adopting plant-based diets, it's also just as important to be able to set realistic goals for sustainable behavior change. So here are a few tips I have related to transitioning to a vegetarian diet. The first one is to eat more plant-based foods that you already like. If you've had peanut butter jelly sandwiches, oatmeal with nuts and fruit, stir fry with vegetables, you are already eating plant-based foods. Start by expanding these meals and increasing the fruits, the vegetables, and the beans that you currently eat. And make other meals more plant-based by adding your favorites. Second tip is to replace or eliminate the animal foods that you don't eat often. You won't miss these, so just let them go first. Slowly add and substitute plant protein for meat protein in recipes you already like. Many alternatives exist. Try to find a few ones that you like. I also want to provide reassurance that you don't have to give up all of your favorite animal foods immediately. If you love pepperoni pizza, suddenly removing it from your diet may seem too big of a sacrifice. The most sustainable changes come when they're done over time. Make the easiest changes first, and then when those no longer feel new, move on to the more difficult ones. And trust that your taste buds will adjust with it, and so will your preferences. Another tip is to explore the familiar and unfamiliar with grocery stores and ingredients. There's so many different types of soy milks, rice, grains, vegetables, fruits, nuts and seeds, and even more ways to prepare them. Make time to try new foods and different preparation methods and have fun with it. Stock your kitchen with healthy plant-based whole foods. If you're not sure where to start, I created a whole webinar about this, and I will send that in a follow-up email. I also have a shopping guide for you as well. And last but not least, involve the people around you. Involving your household with your dietary changes makes it easier, more fun, and more likely to last. Just like how there are benefits of exercising with a friend or a group, eating is no different. Here are just a couple of ingredient swaps for the best nutritional value. I can attest that using flaxseed instead of eggs is a great substitution for baked desserts. It works really well, and it's pretty cool, the science behind it of how a seed can replace an egg. I'm a nutrition nerd, so maybe I'm the only one who gets excited about that, but it's pretty cool. And I just want to say to you that there's many, many organizations of health professionals and researchers who openly support plant-based diets. This isn't a fad diet, and it's supported by a wealth of science and research. Here are some blogs and resources. And on that note, I am going to turn it to Cassie for our food demo.
Hi everyone, Maris, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Awesome, okay. So as we mentioned, we're making sweet potato sliders. So first I'm going to go over all the ingredients that you'll need. So obvious first ingredient, sweet potato, medium is good. You're going to need one 15-ounce can of cannelli beans, rinsed and drained. So I've already done that. You'll need 1.5 cups of whole grain panko crumbs. You'll need 1 large egg, 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. You'll need either 1 tablespoon of lemon zest, which typically comes from about 1 lemon. If you don't have lemons, you can substitute 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which is what I'm going to do. Then you'll need a quarter teaspoon of salt. Sea salt works. A half a teaspoon. Oh, can you guys still see me? Okay. You'll need a half a teaspoon of pepper, half a teaspoon of paprika, and a half a teaspoon of oregano. You'll also need 2 tablespoons of virgin olive oil, and this is to put in the skillet to fry the sweet potato sliders. So let's get started. So first you want to take your sweet potato and you want to peel it. So I've already done a lot of this already. So peeling the sweet potato first, then you're going to want to cube it into about, I cubed mine into about a 1/2 inch slices. So simply just kind of slice the sweet potato long ways. And then horizontally, like I said, about a 1/2 inch or 1 inch cubes. So once you have the sweet potatoes cubed, you can throw them into a stock pot with water. You can go ahead and boil that for about 5 to 7 minutes. So you can set a timer, but the other way you'll know that they're done is that these ones have already been boiled. So you'll be able to easily stick your fork through the sweet potatoes. So once that step is done, you will need a food processor. My blender kind of does everything, so I'm using my blender. So you will first put the sweet potatoes into the blender. The nice thing about this recipe is you can literally just put everything in here, so it doesn't even matter really the order. So we have our sweet potatoes in there. Then we're going to put the cannelli beans, which are serving as our source of protein. Those go in. And then all of the other ingredients. So I said 2 tablespoons of the Parmesan cheese. We'll do 2 tablespoons. And then remember, I'm subbing 1 tablespoon of the lemon zest for 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. That goes in next. And then we'll put in our egg. The recipe calls for 1 large egg. Okay. And then I've already measured out all of our spices. So here's all of our spices. They go right in there. And we can't forget about our breadcrumbs. And that's it. So everything's in there. So I'm going to put the lid of my blender on. The recipe says to pulse this for about 1 minute, but depending on what kind of food processor you have, it might take more or less than that. Mine just took a few pulses, so I'm going to pulse it really quickly. You might have to take the lid off and mix it a bit. As you can see, we're mixing quite nicely there. And this really makes a nice consistency with all of the ingredients so that you can really make a nice patty with this mixture. A couple more pulses and I think we might be good to go. So while you're kind of pulsing this, you can put your 2 tablespoons of your olive oil in your skillet and begin to warm it until it is shimmery. I've already done that part so that you guys don't have to wait to see the final product. you guys what this looks like. Also, side note, if you don't have a food processor or a blender, you can easily mash this with a fork or your hands. That's the nice thing about these ingredients, is they're all very soft. So this is what the mixture looks like once you have kind of blended it all together. I'll kind of give you guys a look there. So as you can see, nice orange color from the sweet potatoes. Now your oil is warm, and what I found was really helpful in making patties, I used a 1/2 cup measuring cup, and I just put it in the blender, and it really formed a really nice patty, and it actually comes out very easily. So simply just kind of like this, and then you can form it more into a patty. All right, and as you can see, it really holds, all of those ingredients really hold well together. So this is what we have. And I actually already made some patties. So as you can see, they're a pretty nice size. Per sweet potato, I got about 5 patties of this size. So it makes a decent amount. Okay, so we have our olive oil heated. Our patty has been cooking in our skillet. And so this is what the final product will look like. So I cooked this patty about 4 minutes on each side. As you can see, it's a nice little golden brown there. And I put it on top of a slider bun, like so. If you're feeling like you want to go without the slider, you can just simply throw this on top of greens and have it with a salad. If you want the slider, you can add any toppings that you want with it. I actually cut out some toppings. So I have here some avocado, some spinach, tomato. You can even throw some caramelized onions on it. Peppers, roasted peppers, sun-dried tomatoes. I actually have some just regular fresh cut tomatoes here. So I am going to throw some spinach on, the tomato, and a couple of slices of avocado. And there you have it, your sweet potato sliders.